You're watching Twin Tiers Sunday with Renata Steele.
Hello and welcome to Twin Tiers Sunday. I'm Renata Steele with WENY TV News, and this week we are talking about an event, a community event that's coming up next month called TEDxChemungRiver. Now, you may have heard of TED Talks, or you may not have heard of TED. I have heard of the program, but I am not that familiar with it. So Meghan Parsons is the licensee and curator for TEDxChemungRiver, hosting this event coming up at the Corning Museum of Glass. But Meghan, thank you so much for coming on the show. And for people who are watching and they say, TED, who's TED? What is TED? If you're like me, maybe you've heard of it, but you want to learn more. What exactly is TED? And then at the local level, TEDxChemungRiver.
Sure. So thank you for having me on. It's very exciting to be here spreading the word about what TEDxChemungRiver is and what we do. TED stands for Technology, Entertainment, and Design. The original conference was started in 1984 in California, and it was when a bunch of people who had ideas to share would get together and share them amongst themselves, and then apply those to the work that they were doing and to continue to grow the projects that they were working on. In the mid-90s, a man named Chris Anderson essentially purchased TED, turned it into a not-for-profit because he wanted the world to share in what TED was doing. So a couple of times a year there are conferences where upwards of 60 or so speakers will talk over 4 days. And these people are the experts in their fields, they know their subject matter, they have a life-changing invention that they're working on, and so TED asked them to share their idea on stage. Now, they only have 18 minutes or less to share this idea, so it's really time crunched. And the people that attend these conferences are definitely people who are sharing these ideas throughout the world. And so after the conferences, the really great talks are then put on TED.com so that everyone can watch them and have access to them for free. There are translators that are volunteering their time throughout the whole world who will translate them into up to 35 different languages, so people anywhere can have the opportunity to learn the same thing that people are learning at these conferences. The TED model, because it's a not-for-profit, they very much believe in making sure that the world community is impacted in a positive way through the ideas that we're sharing. So every year someone wins the TED Prize, they get funding as well as support from TED attendees to make their dream of what they're working on come true, and that always positively impacts the world in some way. In a couple of years ago in 2009, TED launched a program called the TEDx program, and it's a little x. And that X equals independently organized event. So that means that communities can now hold their own TED-like events showcasing the really amazing ideas that are happening locally.
And so the people that are speaking at these TED events, both on the national level and the local level, you said there are people that have ideas worth sharing. Whether someone speaking could be the next, say, Steve Jobs or Bill Gates, or whether it's someone that has a great idea that could fundamentally change not only their community but the world. As you mentioned. And so we've got some local speakers coming up. We want to talk about them a little bit later. But for people listening to this, if you're learning about TED for the first time, of course, you had learned about TED at some point. There was a time that you didn't know about TED. So how did you learn about the program, and what was it about it that really drew you in?
I grew up in this community in a small business. I'm very dedicated to who we are in the Twin Tiers. I've worked at a lot of nonprofits around here and was looking for a way that I could help people be continually inspired to live here and be positive about our area. Was searching and searching and searching. One day, Netflix, through their spontaneous recommendation program, sent me a documentary that was a backstage pass to the big TED event that happens every year. While I was watching that, I realized that that is what I had been looking for. So I got involved immediately in the online community, and this was about 6 years ago. And through that, also shared it with my mother, who's also a very dedicated community volunteer. Through some miscommunication, she actually applied to attend one of the conferences thinking that I had, got accepted to attend, and then I afterwards decided to apply as well and was accepted. And we were thrilled because there were only 400 people who attended that conference from the entire world.
Oh, wow.
So for the two of us from, Elmira, New York, it was pretty amazing. That was in 2009. We had such an incredible experience. I knew that my life had been changed forever from TED, but I thought there must be a way to bring this model back to our home so that we could use this to do the same thing for our local community. And it was just shortly after that that TED launched the TEDx program. And so I started laying the groundwork, really letting people know what TED is because they didn't really know at that time. And then a couple of years ago, a group of community volunteers and I got together and decided we were going to apply to TED for a license that would allow us to put on a local event.
And now, I think very rarely does someone come across something that changes their life fundamentally in this way, where they find, wow, this is the thing that I've been missing in my life, or this is the path that I need to take my life on. And so TED sounds like it's really done that for you.
Absolutely. And one of the most appealing things to me is that it's available to everybody around the world. So it doesn't matter your socioeconomic level, as long as you have access to the internet, you can get this information. College professors are using this in classrooms all of the time. I know some teachers just in elementary schools are using some of this. There's a new project that TED is working on called the TED Ed program, where they are actually doing lesson plans that teachers can use in the classroom. So absolutely. And through doing this, I also have learned that TED's objective has nothing to do with corporate, political, or religious agendas. It's very important for me that there's just a neutral ground where everybody can connect in a space that feels safe.
And so we don't want people to think, okay, this is just someone who has a lot of money that's selling their idea to other people who have a lot of money, or that I don't make a lot of money, or I'm not that spectacular. What can I take away from this type of event?
And everyone has a story to share. And that's the most interesting thing for me about TED, is that everybody's lived a life journey, and what we want to do is make sure that those things are showcased to our local community through the work that we're doing with TEDxChemungRiver.
Okay, and we want to continue talking about TEDxChemungRiver in our next segment. We want to learn about some of the speakers. There are many. Unfortunately, we can't talk about all of them, but please stick around and learn more about TEDxChemungRiver here on Twin Tiers Sunday.
Twin Tiers Sunday will return in a moment.
And welcome back to Twin Tiers Sunday. I'm Renata Steele. I'm talking with Meghan Parsons, who is the licensee and curator for TEDxChemungRiver. We've been hearing about what TED is, why it's such a phenomenal concept, and how you got involved and were inspired to bring this to the local level. This will be the second year for the TEDxChemungRiver event. So let's learn about this local event. Where is it going to be held? And we'll talk about some of the speakers as well.
Absolutely. So as you said, TEDxChemungRiver was a really great success for our first event last year. We had 15 speakers and performers at the Heights Theater in Elmira. The attendees are still talking about what a fantastic time they had. So we knew at that point that it was time to move forward, do a second event that as we had been planning on, but we were ready for a venue that could hold more people in a socially connecting way, as well as a place that could really do a fantastic job taping our talks so that we could share them with the entire community. And so our team, which are all community volunteers, since the only support that comes from TED is through the office, making sure that we do all of our checklist items for our license. So I have really, really dedicated people who spend a lot of time putting this together and fundraising to make sure this happens. So we decided on the Corning Museum of Glass. It's a spectacular venue. We will have 16 different TED Talks on stage that have a combined 22 different people throughout this day-long event. So we'll be starting at 10 o'clock. And there will be lots of opportunities for the attendees to connect with each other, learn about people's different interests and passions, as well as to see these people talk throughout the entire day. And then we'll finish it off with a really great reception that includes cocktails and hors d'oeuvres so that people can end it on a really positive, connecting note.
And now one of the points you decided to make with each of these speakers is that they have a connection to the Southern Tier. Whether they still live in the area or they may have moved away, there is something that still ties them to this area. How did you go about identifying the people that you wanted to participate as a speaker for TEDxChemungRiver?
So the name TEDxChemungRiver comes from the fact that the river connects the communities that we wanted to make sure were connected through this event. So in doing that, it's really important for us to make sure that we are putting people on stage to give their talks who have some sort of a connection to our local area. At this point with the event, we're not interested in flying people in just because they may be a cool speaker. This is about showcasing what we have raised in our community, sharing with people the amazing work that people are doing, whether they're still living here or not. So we do have a graduate from Elmira Academy who's coming back from San Francisco for the weekend to do his talk. We have Dave Clark coming up from Florida, and he's originally from this area. And then we have a lot of people who are still here, still giving back to the community on a daily basis. You grocery shop at the same stores as these people, so you're constantly mingling with them, and it's likely that most of these people, you don't know the incredible work that they're doing, because this is what TEDx allows us to do, is to showcase that work and those ideas.
And of course, we have people from all walks of life. I've been looking at the speaker list. You've got performers, you've got artists, so you have educators, you have people working in the technology sector, people from, like I said, from all walks of life that all have some sort of connection here to the Southern Tier. And I think that it's very easy for people that are from here to maybe take it for granted. People who think, well, you know, there's not much for me here after I'm done with school, with career-wise or, you know, secondary education-wise, and they move away and they don't come back. But there are people who do come back, make a decision to come back, invest in their communities, and that's the wonderful thing about this event, I believe, is that these people, maybe they don't live here anymore, but they still have a vested interest and they want to see our communities continue to grow and to celebrate them.
Absolutely. And for me, I was one of those people. I went away to school and I was sort of on the cusp of, it's a really big world out there, there must be more. What I have come to realize is that I really enjoy living here and I want to give back to this community that's been so great to me. This is a home base. I can go and travel anywhere I want to, but it's amazing to have a daily life here where you don't have to battle with traffic and you have really affordable living expenses compared to a lot of city areas. And so for me, it's really important to continue to remind people why they live here. That's why I do this event. After last year's event, we got a lot of feedback from people saying, you know, I have been sort of on the cusp of, do I leave or do I stay? Should I be searching for jobs outside of this area? I'm not sure. And through our event, they were re-inspired to reconnect with this area because sometimes all it takes is a reminder that we do take a lot for granted and that there are amazing people around here, themselves included. So all of the attendees we think are just as important as the people who are on the stage because they're committed to the same thing, helping to make our community a better place to live and wanting to be here.
And now just we want to touch on just a couple of the speakers, and there are so many, and we'll give people the website where they can go and learn more. But you mentioned Dave Clark specifically. He's also a good friend to WENY TV, famed baseball player, has a disability, but did not let that disability hold him back in any way, and he went on to do amazing things and is now an author and really a huge inspiration, and I think to have him as one of your speakers is really a wonderful thing.
We're very excited that Dave has decided to participate in this year's event. When we actually do the curating of the event, so we allow people to apply to be speakers and performers, but we also go out and we try to find those either the diamonds in the rough or the people that have a really cool story to tell. And Dave was on our list, and we thought, wouldn't it be really amazing? Dave has such an inspirational story to share. It would be great if the calendar and the stars lined up and he was able to get up here. And through working with his team, we were able to make that happen, and we're very excited because I think that he's going to leave the audience with a lot to think about as far as how they think about their lives and what they can do to impact the world.
And now if you've been watching and you say, wow, this is really sounds like an inspirational, wonderful event, I would like to attend. And we want to tell you how you can do that. We're going to do that when we come back for our last segment of Twin Tier Sunday.
Twin Tier Sunday will return in a moment.
Welcome back. Megan and I have been talking about TEDxChemungRiver, which is holding its second event coming up at the Corning Museum of Glass. We talked last segment about one of the wonderful speakers that are coming, Dave Clark, you may know him as the baseball player from the area. And he's done so much for the community and continues to be such an inspiration to so many people. Just one of the more than a dozen, almost 24 people that will be taking part in their the TEDxChemungRiver event. Now, Megan, you talked about learning about TED, becoming inspired by TED, and then bringing TED to the local level through TEDxChemungRiver. But really, what kind of, I guess, I don't know if training's the right word, or what sort of process do you go through to get to this point?
So because we have to get a license from TED, we have to go through an application process so that there is somebody, which is me, the licensee holder, who is responsible to TED to maintain their standards of branding. It's very important to them, especially because just since the spring of 2009, there have been 5,000 events held with 20,000 TEDx talks around the world. 5,000 events in just that amount of time is amazing to me. The exponential growth just took off and did more than TED ever thought when they first put this together. And so it's important for them to make sure that we have the training that we need, especially when they realize there were so many people interested in doing this. So last year, while we were working on the first TEDxChemungRiver, I was invited to attend their first TEDx Summit, which was a gathering of more than 700 TEDx organizers from over 100 different countries. It was held in Doha, Qatar, and so they extended me the invitation to apply to attend. I applied and crossed my fingers, and I was accepted. And so me, along with one of my other curators, decided, and he was accepted as well, and so we went halfway around the world to the Middle East, and we had a training for a week with these amazing people who are doing events all over the world. So TED gave intensive workshops on how we should be managing our events, resources that we can get from our communities, how to make sure we're doing the right thing, that we're upholding the TED image, and it was, of course, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that was really world-changing.
And now, call me a skeptic, but it seems like anybody could, gather a bunch of inspirational speakers and hold something similar to this. What sets the TEDx apart from, me deciding to gather some people from the area and holding something very similar, but not, not within the TED brand, but the same kind of concept?
I think a lot of it has to do with the brand that TED has built and what people believe in around TED. So people who are familiar with TED Talks really understand what that is about. And a TED Talk is different than somebody just giving a speech. We are telling stories, and we're telling stories in a way where there is one main point, and it's distilled down to that, where people can listen to 16 different people talk in a day without feeling beyond overwhelmed. They have takeaways that you don't feel like you're sitting in a lecture all day. So I think it's because it's very specifically curated. We put this together with specific intentions and missions, and we also curate the audience. As I said before, we think it's important that the people who are attending take the ideas and the stories that they hear and share them with the rest of the community. So that means that we ask them to tell us a little bit about themselves before they actually attend. So we have a registration process on our website. So if people are interested in attending, they can go on there and check it out. There is a deadline for registration so that we can make sure all of the event logistics are taken care of. So that will be closing on Monday, November 5th. So people can go on, take a look. If they're interested, they could go ahead and apply on the application right on our website.
And now, does it cost anything to attend this event?
It does. It costs $40, and that's just a basic fee to cover part of the expenses because we do offer lunch, we offer snack, there's coffee and water, and then we have the reception at the end. So we have had to do some significant fundraising from the community so that we can keep that price point low and manageable. But yes, $40 to attend.
All right, because you mentioned you don't receive any funding from TED itself, and this is a complete independent event, and it seems like that $40 would really not cover the amount that it would cost to put on an event like this.
That's correct. We're trying to keep that price low, but when you're putting on an event for close to 200 people, it gets expensive. It costs money to rent out the facility for all of the cameras and the editing. So we have had to do some significant fundraising, and we're very thankful to our community partners who have stepped up to say, we believe in what TED is. We know you're still a relatively new event, but we're inspired by what you're doing, and we want to be involved. And we're looking for more. So if anybody is interested in getting involved with what we're doing, we'd be more than thrilled to have a conversation around that.
And for, I'm sure the planning or the ideas to plan the next TEDxChemungRiver is already in the works. And so maybe you can't attend the one coming up, but you are very interested either in TEDxChemungRiver, learning more about it, or maybe attending next year. How can they find out more information?
Our website has a lot of information on it with some specifics about the event and how we put this on. So TEDxChemungRiver.com. On there, we have everything for last year's event, all of our speakers and performers, along with their videos that weren't up to the quality that we wanted, but they're still on there. You can get the gist. And this year, all of the speaker and performer photos and their biographies are on there so that you can get a glimpse as to who will be speaking this year. There's also more information about how to get involved if you're interested in volunteering. And of course, we're starting to recruit volunteers for next year, because if this is as much of a success as we expect it to be, people will really be starting to plan and looking forward to next year as soon as this year is over.
Absolutely. Well, Megan, thank you so much for coming and spreading the message of TED. And TEDxChemungRiver is November 10th at the Corning Museum of Glass. If you're interested in learning more, as Megan said, TEDxChemungRiver.com. Megan, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate learning more about TED, and I want to thank you for joining us and learning more about the program as well. We hope we take something away and are interested in taking part. Thanks for joining us. We hope you have a great Sunday.